it personal, but I ain't lying, I ain't hiding, I've been grinding.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm about to show you guys how I made this tennis skirt out of a man's shirt that I think looks so cute, as you can pair it with so many different stuff. I swear you won't regret, so let's get started. I thrifted this shirt for $6 and it's a size triple XL, which gives me a lot of fabric to work with, and it's pure cotton, so let's move on. So first things first, I'm going to remove the pocket using a seam ripper. Starting from one side, I'm pulling the stitches out, which is not the traditional way to do it, I know, but sometimes you can destroy the material while going too fast. That's what I feel. I get really paranoid while doing this, so instead of ripping it off, I like to pull the stitches slowly one after another. And the next thing to get rid of are the bottom lines. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming it off on both the sides following the seam lines. And while doing this, you want to make sure you are only trimming off the front of the shirt and not the back. Moving down to the bottom, I'm drawing a straight line from one side to the other to make sure the edges are straight. Also marking 14 inches from the line, which is going to be the length of our skirt. I'm drawing a straight line and trimming it off both the bottom and the top. Now, as that's not going to be enough to create the pleats of my skirt, I'm laying the rest of the shirt out open and marking about 14 inches again, so it's of the same length, and I'm drawing a straight line. Next, I'm also drawing a vertical line on one side to make sure the side edges are straight and cutting it out. Next, folding the piece in half and cutting out the rest. Okay, next it's time to join the pieces together, and today I am about to show you guys how to do a French seam. So first I'm going to sew the fabric pieces together both right side out. Remember, both right side out in this case and not the wrong side out as we normally do. And then fold the fabric right in the seam line, this time the fabric wrong side out, and sew it using a straight stitch from top to the bottom. This way you won't have any raw edges hanging on either side of the fabric, and it's going to leave you with a nice polished look with that professional looking seam line. Next, I also hem the side edges of the long piece that we just joined using a French seam. So I'm just trying to fold the piece as tiny as possible, taking about 1 centimeter twice and sewing it using a straight stitch. Next, it's time to hem the bottom edges of the skirt, which by the way, you can leave it to the last, but I decided to get it over and done with. So folding the edge a tiny bit first and then double folding it, which is about 1.5 inch, and sewing it using straight stitch near the top edge of the fold. And every time I'm done sewing a little, I like to check if I'm going straight by measuring it with my measuring tape. After done hemming, I'm moving on to the leftover shirt and marking 6 inches horizontally and drawing a straight line, which is going to be the waistline of the skirt. So basically, I'm cutting out rectangle pieces from the leftover fabric so that I can join them and create the waistband for the skirt. Now, of course, you don't have to do this if you already have a long piece of fabric. Just measure the width, that is about 6 inches. And for the length, measure your waist area and add a few inches to that measurement. And next, it's time to join the rectangle pieces out. But before that, I decided to cut out the bigger pieces in half so that all the pieces are of the same size, and that way it won't look bad when it's turned into a waistband, as the seam lines are going to be in equal distance from each other. Next, of course, I'm joining the pieces together, sewing them both right side out using a straight stitch. Now, before you ask, let me tell you why I am not using a front seam here. Because it's going to be a waistband, the long piece is going to be folded, and as the seam lines are going to be hidden inside, so it's totally unnecessary to do a front seam here. And once the pieces are all joined and turned into one long piece, I'm going to hem the raw edges all around the piece, taking about 1 centimeter, folding it twice. Next, it's time to create the pleats, which is my favorite part, creating the entire skirt. And I started from one side, realizing I forgot it was not recording. So I'm measuring 3 inches horizontally with the help of a measuring tape first. And then I'm using a ruler and folding the fabric towards the ruler, matching its width, which is about 2 inches. And then adding a pin to secure the pleats. Next, I'm doing the same thing, measuring 3 inches and folding the fabric towards the ruler and pinning it down. And basically, I'm doing the same thing over and over again until I reach the other side. It's also about the full measurements of this piece for creating your pleats. You may ask how you figure out the measurements. Here I have double the measurement of my hip area, which is about 100 inches. So what you need to do is measure your hip area and then multiply it with 2. However, depending on how thick or thin you want the pleats for your skirt, you can also use lesser than that or even add some extra inches to it. Now this is what it looks like once I'm done creating all the pleats, and I'm going to do a straight stitch at the top to secure the pleats. But before doing that, I'm also marking 5 inches from the top horizontally on all the pleats, and going to sew each pleat using straight stitch. This way the pleats will be in its place and will give a nice polished look to the skirt. Also, before I start sewing, I decided to add some pins on the bottom of the skirt, so when I sew the pleats, the pins will make sure they are all straight and equally divided. Next, I'm going to add a zipper to the skirt, which is never of the right length. I am always too paranoid thinking the zipper will end up short, so I always end up buying it super long. Anyways, I can always trim off the excess, so I want the zipper to be quarter the length of the skirt, and the zipper is very long, as you can see, so I am trimming it off, folding it in half. Next, I'm folding the skirt both wrong side out so that I can add pins on the side edges and adding pins near the bottom. Now, with the help of the zipper, I'm placing it beside the skirt, matching the top edges and marking where the zipper ends. Now here, do not forget to add some seam allowance. So before we add the zipper, I'm going to do a straight stitch from the bottom until the mark. Now to add the zipper, you want to unzip it first to make sure the needle does not break because of the locker. And I'm placing both the zipper and the skirt right side out, matching the edges together, sewing it using a straight stitch. Now once I reach halfway through the zipper, I like to zip it. Again, to make sure the needle does not hit the locker and break it. Next, basically I'm sewing the skirt edges and the zipper all around using a straight stitch. Also, when you reach the bottom, it's very important to go slow. Now, as you can see, I'm trying to go really slow and I'm not pressing my accelerator at this moment at all. I'm just sewing it with my hand to make sure the needle slowly goes through the zipper without breaking, and once it's through, I'm turning around the skirt and sewing the rest as usual. Now that I have the skirt ready, I'm folding the long waistband in half and sandwiching the skirt's top edges about an inch or so, and going to add pins to secure it. Also, I'm going to do the same thing to the rest of the band. Once the waistband is added to the skirt, I'm going to sew it from one side to the other, following the seam line using a straight stitch. Lastly, it's time to add something to the band which will hold the skirt in place. So I'm going to use some hoop and loop tape. So I'm placing it over the waistband and marking the length so I know how long I need, and going to trim off the excess. I'm going to sew both the pieces on the side edges of the waistband. With the skirt zipped up, I am drawing a straight line where the waistband ends, placing one piece right next to the line, sewing it with a straight stitch all around the piece, and your skirt should be ready.
You always posting up pictures, trying to look like you winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in, yeah.
Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more DIY videos like this. Also, it inspires me to make more videos for you guys. I hope it was helpful, and see you next time. Bye guys!
I'm on hiatus.